Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
Unbelievable video shows the rescue of a woman held captive, discovered with a collar around her neck, chained to the floor. Officers found her on the second floor of the home after discovering the entire first floor had been barricaded. Officers in Louisville, Kentucky made the terrifying discovery on August 16th on the city's south side. At about 7 o'clock that evening, a call came in from concerned neighbors reporting a woman screaming. Body camera video shows officers arrive on the scene. Early on, officials realized the entire first floor is barricaded off, blocking all doors and windows.
Put the door down? Yeah. I got a bunch of loose.
But there is a second floor window open after the woman chained inside, 37-year-old Jonna Wilson, kicked out a window and began screaming. Officers use a ladder found on the side of the home to reach Wilson.
We see a ladder.
I got a ladder.
At the top of the ladder, officers find Wilson crying with a chain collar and padlock around her neck. Immediately, they ask about the suspect.
Is anybody else in there? He did what? Is he Hispanic?
The suspect was later identified as 36-year-old Moses May, Wilson's estranged boyfriend and father to her child. She later told police he asked her to come over to clean the house. That's when he chained her up. She was there for about 5 hours before being rescued. Video shows officers follow the chain from Wilson's neck to a bolt in the floor. Officials use a hatchet to break her free.
But there's no one else in here, right?
No, you can tell.
There we go.
Once she's safely removed from the home, officials use hedge clippers to remove the chain from Wilson's neck.
What kind of car did you drive?
May was taken into custody 2 days later. He now faces multiple charges, including kidnapping, wanton endangerment.
That's crazy. That happened 2.5 hours from my house. That is absolutely insane. And that lady is roughly the same age as my wife. So it really hits home. Yeah, that's one of the dangers of the internet, you know. You try to get your own business going and you try to get some free marketing using Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something like that, and you're just met with a bunch of weirdo psychopaths that are trying to kidnap you and do who knows what. That's absolutely terrifying.
Bob Leroy, a member of the 11th Airborne in New Guinea, remembers his first sighting of the mysterious craft.
Suddenly I saw this ball about this size, that thing there about 3 feet in diameter, following this Japanese Betty bomber, and it started changing colors. I thought I had seen a new secret weapon. I had to agree with the rest of the guys because that's what they all thought it was. They didn't know any better, and nobody had ever heard of a UFO in '44.
They were spotted around the world and became known as Foo Fighters, from the French word for fire. According to Haynes, who has investigated hundreds of newspaper and eyewitness accounts, the descriptions of the Foo Fighters are disturbingly alike.
Pilots would report glowing, luminous balls of light that would come up from the ground, often orange or red, anywhere from 1 foot to 6 feet in diameter, would accelerate up to their altitude and then level off very quickly and then stay beside the airplane. They would fly either singly or in pairs or in trio or 4 objects, oftentimes in rigid formation, which is important. And all of these flight dynamics point in one way or another, to a fairly high intelligent level of guidance.
Robert May was the tail gunner on a B-24 for the last 2 years of World War II. He vividly recalls a dangerous top-secret mission to drop guns and ammunition behind German lines. But it wasn't the nature of the mission that has stayed with Robert for more than a half-century. It's what he saw up there.
I spied something out there. It was kind of bright. Didn't know if it was an aircraft or what it was. I'd say it was probably traveling at a fairly decent speed, maybe 200 miles an hour, 300 miles an hour, and it was coming toward it, but it was coming in a bright light. That's what made it so odd that we could not identify. Because we all knew exactly whatever enemy aircraft was there, we knew what it was. It was very easy because that's one of the things we learned real quick like.
The Allies thought it was the Nazis that it was the Allies. Then the fireball showed up in Japan.
And here, from the November 1944 issue of the New York Times, is a very interesting case of a B-29 flying over Japan, and the flight crew saw several Foo Fighters.
Intelligence services for both Allied and Axis forces were hard at work trying to figure out where the Foo Fighters were coming from. To this day, no one has figured out what they were or who made them.
I don't think there's any way that in 1943 or 44 or 45, terrestrial technology was advanced enough to produce the kind of flight dynamics, the containment of energy, the luminous output for as long as we're talking about here.
And Foo Fighters did not go away when World War II ended. Military pilots reported seeing them during the Korean War. And were it not for the code of silence of modern-day pilots, there might be continuing reports today.
1 foot to 6 foot in diameter makes me think these things couldn't have been manned. It makes me think these are some sort of advanced drone technology that we probably have access to now. We probably know what those things are as far as like the higher-ups in government and stuff, the people who know. It's interesting, you know, we've all heard of the Foo Fighters and stuff. I've never actually seen anyone talk about, you know, witnessing them firsthand, so I thought that was interesting. But it's wild how these things just seem to show up in times of war, like it's mom and dad watching to make sure we don't cross a line. Like, hey, we're here, we're watching you, cross your T's and dot your I's, play by the rules. That's what it seems like. Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you like this kind of content, I'm making new one just like it every day, Monday through Friday. It'd be awesome if you'd hit the subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me.
This creepy video comes from Mandy ASMR 22, I'll tag her below. And I've featured her before, catching all sorts of weird occurrences in the woods behind her home. But this time, she may have just caught what's been terrorizing her and her family on camera. Now it should be noted that many of the commenters were quick to point out how the audio was so clear when the camera seemed so far away. But Mandy was easily able to debunk this in a follow-up video, proving that the voice wasn't dubbed over. Here's some more of that clip, but you can follow her for updates.
This is so stupid. It blows my mind what grown adults will do on the internet to try to get a few views. And like she's going to make a bunch of money off of doing this, you know. I wouldn't consider myself a mature person by any stretch of the imagination. I've actually been asked recently by my wife, do I act goofy whenever I'm at home by myself? Because I act so goofy around her, she just assumes that's how I naturally act. Some of this stuff that people do on the internet to try to get a few views is just, it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for this lady. I just don't get it. I have the know-how to sit here and create fake ghost videos and stuff like that that would be fairly believable, especially with as many fake ghost videos as I've watched, trying to figure out how they're created and stuff. I could sit here and make a video every day of another fake ghost sighting or some sort of paranormal activity inside my home and get way more views probably than I am doing this stuff. But is it not embarrassing to anyone else seeing grown adults who are supposed to be at your maturity level, supposed to be your peers, acting like buffoons on the internet trying to get a few views?
What is believed to be the remains of Noah's home, the grave of Noah's wife, gravestone markers, a stream by Noah's home that would have provided water for planting crops, vineyards, and animal husbandry, and a large rock that many believe was the altar Noah used for sacrificing animals to God has been discovered in the town of Arsap. The remains of Noah's home are believed to be located here in this area. A sarcophagus was discovered by Ron Wyatt in this area as well. Now, a sarcophagus is a stone coffin or container, and it was used to hold the skeletal remains of a person who was about 15 feet or 4.5 meters tall. So in this area were the skeletal remains of a person, and it's believed these remains were those of Noah's wife. It's believed before the flood that the people and animals were much bigger as they lived longer. 2 tombstones were found in front of what is believed to be Noah's home. On one of the tombstones found by Ron Wyatt, it had carvings of 8 people, a rainbow, and a dove on it. This tombstone is believed to be that of Noah's wife, as the second largest person is looking down with her eyes closed. There have been found in the area around the site many sea life fossils and an abundance of sea coral that give evidence that this area was once underwater for a significant period of time. This would match the Genesis account of the Great Flood as found in the Bible. Found in this area are around 30 of these drogue and anchor stones. They are found scattered along a path running from west to east. It appears as the waters were receding from the Great Flood, the drogue stones began hitting the land under the water, and then they were cut loose. The remaining stones are generally in the area where the ark eventually came to rest. Many of these stones have holes carved in them for connecting ropes from the ark to the stones. This would make sense as the ark was massive in size and would need extra large stones to stabilize it. Many of these stones have crosses carved on them from early Christians visiting this site, and others have crosses that are from the Crusader period from around 1200 AD. Some of the stones have 8 crosses on them, representing Noah and his family that were saved from the flood. Several of the stones have been used as grave markers as well. One of these stones has an ancient carving that appears to be the Tower of Babel. The 3 layers carved on this stone are believed to represent the 3 levels or decks of the ark as mentioned in the Bible.
I'm curious how far away from that site is the actual purported remains of the ark. So, they think that they've found the ark. So where in relation to the ark is this site of supposedly Noah's family's dwelling? I'll tell you the most interesting thing that I heard out of all that was we got an actual name of an investigator or a geologist or archaeologist. I don't know, he didn't specify, but the name Ron Wyatt, that he dug up the remains of a lady that was 15 foot tall. This gets me excited because we have an actual name of a researcher and purported giant remains found. Now we have a direction that we can research and go digging in. So I put this in here specifically because of that. I think that giants existed. I think that there's a lot of evidence to point in that direction. And this is supposedly a modern day unearthing of giant remains. That's absolutely fascinating. And maybe a little bit easier to dig up information on than some of these older cases.
There's a whole conspiracy about the invention of the transistor. Because the transistor came about right after Roswell. And there's a company called Bell Labs, and Bell Labs I believe they were the people that invented the transistor. And there was a military base right outside of Bell Labs, and they had always said that military base was to protect New York City, but it was pretty far from New York City. Like, if you wanted to protect New York City, you put a base a lot closer. You wouldn't put it so far away where it'd take them like 40 minutes to fly there.
Yeah.
But Bell Labs is a wild place. And that was one of the main focal points of conspiracy theorists when they were talking about back engineering stuff from crashed UFOs, was fiber optics and transistors, and that they all came about very shortly after Roswell. And people don't exactly know how they figured those out.
The timeline on this would indicate that this is where we got this stuff, from backwards engineering these downed crafts that came from Roswell. And considering how the U.S. patent system works, if you have anything that's advanced that comes out, that you create, that you actually invent, they're just going to shelf it and do away with you. If it's going to cause any negative effect on the U.S. economy or anything like that, they're not going to allow you to reap the reward of your invention. So my money would be on these came from the government. The fiber optics and the transistors and stuff came from some government personnel or something like that. Whoever invented these was probably someone who worked at Roswell, worked on backwards engineering these crafts. It'd probably be easy to find a connection between them and the government if you just start looking at their history. I would imagine there's probably more evidence that points in this direction than there is evidence that points away from it.
So I was wanting to try to get this meta AI to generate an image of Jesus Christ just based off of the scriptures in the Bible, just out of curiosity to see what it would do. First attempt, it immediately says, "Oops, I cannot generate that image. Can I help you imagine something else?" So just out of curiosity, I decided to try some other biblical figures like Moses and got the same response. Then I thought I'd try other religious figures like Vishnu, Ganesh, Buddha. And then after it denied all of those, I figured, well, let's see if it'll depict Baphomet. And what do you know? It has no problem with depicting demonic images. What's the deal, man? Why are you cool with demons, but not something that's holy?
So that was actually a viewer-created video. So this video actually depicts my biggest problem with AI. It's not that artificial intelligence is inherently evil or that it's going to necessarily jump straight to the conclusion that it's better off without human beings and start trying to do away with us. It's the people that are in charge of these AI systems are the same people or the same types of people who are in charge of our government. And because of that, the models that it's being taught off of are not representative of the population. They're representative of a small group of people who live in a bubble and have an agenda to push out. Clearly exemplified in this video right here. But I would just like to say thank you to the guy that made that video. That's actually one of our viewers who decided to start making his own content. He posted this in the Discord and told me I could use it for my videos, and I appreciate it. Very good video.
I got a strong urge one night to go out and make a circle, and it was too late for me to get a team together. So I went and did this circle on my own. I actually got a tripod, and I actually used that to scribe the circle myself, and then scribe each part of the parts of the petals. Now, well, I actually heard people whilst I was making the circle. I thought I heard a guitar, and I thought I heard people chatting. So I knew there were people nearby. So I didn't obviously speak because I was on my own, and but I sought out the people that were there to find out their story of, well, did you hear anything? Did you see anything? They'd been meditating on this design, that nobody had been playing a guitar.
Well, they'd come up with this design themselves.
They were meditating on a 6-fold petal design, and I had come out of my house at 11 o'clock at night with an urge to come within about 150 feet of them.
So you independently of them came up with this idea of the 6-petaled flower in a circle?
Yeah.
So what came first, his idea for the design or the people out there meditating for it?
Well, when you're looking at it from his perspective, he just suddenly had a compulsion to get up in the night and go out and create a crop circle by himself. But this group was at this site meditating, asking for a crop circle to appear, right? Expecting it to be some type of alien or who knows what they were thinking, but certainly not a dude with a board and a rope in the middle of the night in a tripod to come out and etch out this crop circle.
How come we don't have more man-made attempts at crop circles where they have made a mistake and just given up? Why isn't there more half-finished crop circles?
That's actually a good point. He does say that you can fill them in and you can kind of like cover up over where you've made a mistake.
Mistakes even meant to be there, because some people do believe that the mistakes were actually intentional in some respects. I mean, we had a crop circle we were making one night, we were going along, and all of a sudden we came to the last part of the crop circle, and all parts were identical. So we came to the sixth part. We'd done the 5, and the 5 arms were correct, and the 6th one, we couldn't do it. And all of us just went, goo, goo, gaga, and we all just went, nobody could think. It was almost like something had sort of like slapped us and gone, you're not going to complete this. So we had to do something else on the fly to just complete it. But we'd actually scribed it in, and then we just all went crazy, and we couldn't do it. The feature that we put in place actually pointed towards another land feature that could have had significance towards that land feature. So the mistake was in the direction pointing at a land feature.
Chance?
Well, we were all just flummoxed. We couldn't continue. Sometimes when you're meant to do things, you do them, and when you're meant to stop, you stop. And if you're not meant to do them, bad things happen, which is what happened on one night when we were going out and we tried to make a circle. It felt wrong. Everybody was making mistakes. We couldn't coordinate ourselves. And I said, no, we're gonna do this. And we started doing it. 3 balls of light appeared at the corners of the field, and we ran. These balls of light were sort of coming across the top of the crop in a very quiet fashion. They were across the crop. It was just balls of light that were moving across the crop into the position where we'd been. Now, subsequently, a big circle appeared in that field, which was spectacular and outshined what we were going to do.
So he went into a field to hoax a circle, even though he got this feeling that that wasn't the right place. It was almost like he was painting on the canvas that had been reserved. A non-human intelligence has facilitated him performing the hoaxes. This is one evening where he wanted to go and create a crop circle, but there were a bunch of people there looking through a telescope, so he couldn't create it. Or could he?
It's about this intent, whether you're meant to make a circle or you're not meant to make a circle. On a particular night, we knew that people were inside a field watching the sky with a telescope. We knew they were there, and I said, well, we can't go in that field because there's people there, they're going to see us, so we can't work that close to them. And I just got this feeling that it was okay to do it. So I went into the field with a friend and sort of waited there whilst I walked up to the top of the field and went through where these people were with a telescope. I wanted to see, could they see us? And I walked through, and lo and behold, they could see us down in that part of the field. If we were going to do it, they'd see us. No. I got this feeling, yes, let's do it. And they said, yeah, we feel like we're going to do it too. So we did the craziest thing you can imagine. We made a circle in front of a load of people that could see we were making the circle. But they didn't see us, we thought, because they didn't come in to stop us making the circle. So in the morning, I sought them out. I found out who these people were. I said, did you see or hear anything? They didn't know we were circle makers. And I said, did you see or hear anything last night in that circle that appeared up there that you were near? And they said, no, it's the maddest thing. We were there all night, and a fog bank came down over the field, and it was only in that area. And in the morning, the fog raised, and there was a circle there.
What the hell's going on with this guy?
Isn't it weird? And it starts me thinking about what we've described with some people before, is it the phenomenon that he's encountering, or is he actually now attracting the phenomenon, which is adding to him being able to do this under the cover of darkness?
I just asked everybody's opinion yesterday in yesterday's video about crop circles, of whether you thought that they were actually created by extraterrestrials or if they were man-made. Clearly, they can be man-made. And the guy that's claiming to make them is also claiming that extraterrestrials are making them as well. So that doesn't exactly clear anything up. It's interesting to see that there are people out there that admit to making these elaborate patterns and stuff in these fields. I guess my biggest problem with seeing all of them as being man-made is just the intricacy that you see in some of these patterns. Well, I'll just say this. I've never seen a crop circle with a bad design. I'll just put it that way. It seems like whoever's making these has really, really good design capabilities, and that makes them look more realistic. So I just don't know. Not a clue. I guess right now we could say, as complicated looking as they are, we know that there are people that are admitting to making them, so the assumption should rest on all crop circles are man-made until we get evidence in the other direction. We do know that we have extremely advanced crafts and stuff flying around overhead all the time, but we haven't had any proof, any video evidence of them actually playing around with a cornfield. So I guess at this point, the assumption has to be made that they're all man-made.
Hey, yo.
It is crazy how misleading that looks. Like, that water, if it was just the water crashing up on the rocks, it would look like you could stand there and probably withstand the force a little bit. And maybe if it just come up to like waist high, it would possibly not knock you down. But then you see those boats that are sitting there about waist height that are just sitting on the rocks, and it picks them up and throws them like it's nothing. And boats ain't light. They're pretty heavy. It's crazy to see how destructive something as simple as water can be. And then you think back to like the mud flood theories and the possibility that we had advanced civilizations here before and stuff. And then you think, well, what happened? Why don't we have any evidence? Because it all got buried because of the floods. It's amazing what something as simple as water is capable of. But guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. Don't forget to leave a like. I don't think I've ever asked that before. Click subscribe if you haven't already. I post 5 days a week, and I'd love to have you come back and watch the videos with me. If you haven't ordered a shirt and you'd like to, you can go to www.barry-stepp.com. And don't forget to post your photo on the Discord server, and I will put it in a video. I hope everybody comes back to see me in tomorrow's video. I hope everybody has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow.